Hey everybody, welcome back to another Tuesday grilling video. And as you know, we've been doing our culinary circumnavigation of different countries, and right now it's all about Jamaica. This is going to be a fun recipe today. We're making Johnny Cakes, also known as fried dumplings. While we mix up the ingredients here in a minute, I'll tell you a little bit of the history behind this, and this is a great and easy dish to do. It can be used as a breakfast food, a snack, or even a side dish for anything that has some good sort of gravy or sauce with it. Let me show you how it's done. Let's talk about the ingredients for this. It really is pretty easy. We have 1 cup of sifted all-purpose flour, and sifting it's going to make it a little bit lighter and airier. It's what you want to ultimately do. We have 2 tablespoons of granulated white sugar. We have 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, not soda, but powder. We're going to use about 1/4 teaspoon or sprinkle of salt. We have about 3/4 tablespoon of butter. And then we have about 1/3 cup to maybe 1/2 cup of ice cold water. And I'll show you how we add that in there. You don't want to just dump it all in. So let me show you how we combine all these ingredients. Really simple. We start with just adding all the dry ingredients together. Welcome to living in the humidity. My sugar already was stuck to the top of the bowl there. Baking powder. And our 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And again, we're just going to use a sprinkle there. And you just want to mix this up. Now, certainly you can use a whisk, but I will tell you, tradition calls for using your hands. Some people will use a whisk to start this, and then a spoon or a fork, but we're going to use our hands. Okay, we're just going to take our butter here. Again, we have about 3/4 tablespoon there. We're just going to drop it right down into our flour, and we're just going to mix it up. Now, you want to do this by hand. What we're trying to do is incorporate some of the butter into the flour. And this is no different than most baking recipes. You're just going to keep working it until this looks, I don't know, a little bit more crummy, like almost a little bit more breadcrumby than floury. And you don't want any big chunks of the butter. Now what this does is it helps give it a good flavor and helps make the inside nice and soft and flaky. All right, so that's what we want. You see how it looks a little crumbly, more so than just plain old flour. So we're just going to make a small well right here in the middle. Add some of our water. Not all of it, and we're just going to kind of keep starting to mix this together. We don't want to overwork this dough at all. And we're going to slowly add our water to it until we get a dough consistency. So I mentioned before that I would tell you a little bit of the history of the Johnny Cakes. So the way I heard it, of course, is originally back in Jamaica, these were often used when people were going to take a long sort of walk or hike or travel somewhere, and we're doing it on foot. And you could make these things and put them in a bag or in a satchel or whatever it was and carry it with you. And they were very good for a journey, and they were called Johnny Cakes. And over time, just with the patois language and the Creole language, that sort of slanged into Johnny Cakes. That's the way it was said when it was said fast. They became Johnny Cakes. That was what they were all called, Johnny Cakes. You'd see them at every little local food side place or restaurant, or even resorts were doing it. I don't know when this transition started, but it seems now that everybody calls these things fried dumplings instead. And what's interesting is they call these different things in different parts of the Caribbean. It's common all over the island. So down in Trinidad and Guyana, I think they call them bakes. All right, there we go. What we don't want to do is we don't want to overwork this dough. We're going to drop this in here, we're going to cover it with some plastic wrap, and we're just going to let it sit for an hour or so, just to soften up and get nice and supple. Okay, our Johnny Cake dough has been resting for about 2 hours now with that cling film over the top of it. I just have it sitting in the house. I've got a frying pan right here on this Blackstone griddle, and because this is a grilling channel, we do almost everything outside on the grill, which I love. So I have about almost 1/2 inch of oil in the bottom of this pan. So I've got this on. I want to get my oil at about 280 to 300 degrees. I'm at about 230 right now. So while that's heating up, let me go grab the dough out of the house. We'll show you how we prepare these into small balls, which is the shape of a typical Johnny Cake or dumpling. And I'll show you exactly how you shape it. We'll start with a ball, and then we'll flatten them out a bit. What we're going to do is we're just going to lightly flour our plate, because this is where we're going to put these after we shape these balls. And we want to get a little bit of flour on our hands. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. And now we just want to take our Johnny Cake dough. We want to break this into pieces about the size of a dumpling. Let's say, oh, I don't know, maybe a little bit smaller than a golf ball. And what we want to do is, with our hands floured, we want to rotate these around. The best thing to do is kind of make a claw like this, and we want to roll it on the inside of our fingers, along this butt part of our palm, along here, and along the inside of our thumb. That helps get it in a nice shape. That gives me a nice ball shape. The other way to do this is you just roll these up in a ball like you were playing with Play-Doh or something. And then you begin to pull it in and fold it over. And we flatten that out a little bit. Now with Johnny Cakes, you don't necessarily want them round, though some people do it that way. And I like to use the butt of my palm here and just sort of flatten them out so they are more flat than they are round like a ball. Now I'm doing a pretty small recipe of these just because we don't need a whole bunch of them. But this is a great side dish to anything, or sprinkle a little powdered sugar on it. It's a little bit like a beignet or a donut too. So these are versatile. They can be savory. Adding a little sweetness to them can certainly make them a breakfast food or a snack. All right, now what we want to do is to test this, we're going to drop just a small piece of this dough in the oil. What we want it to do is sink to the bottom and begin to form bubbles around it just like it is, and then slowly work its way up. And if it does that, exactly what we're looking to see right there. You see how it's slowly beginning to rise back up? That oil is the right temperature. And all we're going to do is put these very gently right on in here. I'm going to pop 3 of them in. And one of the things you can do here is just splash a little oil on these. And as you do, what you'll notice is it'll actually start to rise a little bit. All right, so these have been in for about 5 to 6 minutes, and look at the difference here. This one and I'm right here, and this one are definitely puffed up quite a bit. This one, you see the crack in it? It's because I didn't necessarily form it into a good tight ball, and that's the difference that you'll see on these. You just want to go ahead and flip these over. You want to be this nice golden brown color like this. And you can see why you need a little bit of the deeper oil here. We want this to make sure it's cooked all the way through on the inside for sure. All right, it's been about another 5 minutes or so. I'm just gonna go ahead and throw a little of this hot oil over these guys. See how these are looking. They're looking about ready to come out. I'm gonna turn up the heat just a little bit on these guys. Now, as you can see, there's nothing hard about doing this, but you do want to keep an eye on them. What you don't want to do is overcook them. And don't just think that when you get one side done and brown and you flip it over and you get the other side done that it's ready. You got to make sure that you cook these long enough so that the inside is no longer doughy. You want it to be light and fluffy and a little bit airy and just a little bit sweet, almost like a dense, non-yeasted donut. These are really, really good. I've got the first batch out. Just gonna go ahead and grab these second ones that we did. And take a look at this, just what you want to have inside. You want them to be nice and crisp on the outside, and look at that, light and fluffy inside. So we'll give this a shot. As I mentioned, Johnny Cakes are really common. These things are made for breakfast, they're made for snacks. They're great in anything that has a stew or gravy in it. So whether it's oxtail or brown stewed chicken or some kind of curry goat, this is a phenomenal little side dish for soaking up some of that flavor. Looks really good. Crispy on the outside, you have a little bit of that grease flavor, just you know it's been deep fried, which tastes good. Yeah, I wouldn't eat a bunch of them. If you want these sweet, dust them with some granulated sugar or powdered sugar. If you like them just like they are, and by the way, they're delicious plain, just break open and enjoy. This, fried dumplings, Johnny Cakes, or what used to be called Johnny Cakes. I hope you guys have enjoyed this little culinary circumnavigation around Jamaica with Johnny Cakes or fried dumplings. We'll see you next Tuesday on another grilling video. Bye. Happy and safe grilling, everybody.